not gonna be before you long, okay? But the enemy is trying to wear you out. I need you to know this. His job is to try to discourage you, to try to send you into unbelief, try to send you into depression or sorrow, trying to make you come up against madmen, make you come up against mocking spirits, spirits that have mocked you. You can name whatever your vice is. The enemy is trying to take you out of here. The ultimate goal of the devil is to kill you. And if he can't kill you physically, he wants you to be the walking dead. He wants you to be alive on this earth, but walking dead, right? And unfortunately, we see many people's lives that he's been successful in, but
Welcome back to As I Am with Raynette Lee. I'm your host, Raynette Lee. Tonight is a special edition. Well, not really special, but it's special. It's my testimony. It's my testimony with the new age practices and spirituality. And as a Christian, as still claiming to be a Christian, lukewarm, super lukewarm. I mean, the water was basically cold. You know what I'm saying? So this was even more recently in the last years, from like into 2020 till just recently in like last year, 2022. So about August of 2022 is when I just stopped doing a lot of the practices, including smoking Mary Jane, you know what I'm saying? And I don't think I was really that heavy of a drinker, but I definitely drank. Like, I definitely was drunk a couple times. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was, you know what I mean? Made some pretty bad decisions, promiscuity, like, a lot of it. And actually, during the time I was doing new age practices and spirituality, or like kind of trying to dibble in it, thinking I can do that still as a Christian, I actually wasn't really that promiscuous, but that was before. So it's like a little bit of my testimony. So first of all, it started with horoscopes. And just, so my birthday is October 25th. So I was claiming Scorpio so heavy. And I just remember relating to it because I had always felt highly sexual. You know what I mean? Like, even as a child, but I was confusing that with like that's how it was supposed to be, not really realizing it was because at 4 years old, I had a cousin who was exposed to something that he was unfortunate to see. It was unfortunate. Like, he witnessed someone he loves being raped'd, and which is terrible. And he was like 3 or 4 too. And so then he didn't really know what was going on or whatever. So then he brought that to me, and we were like dry humping, like nothing else. You know what I mean? But all I knew is it just felt good. So that was the start of being introduced to something sexual at a very young age. So from there, I did that with other little boys around the neighborhood and stuff like that. But before that happened, I just remember him like snitching on me or whatever, because I was trying to make him do the same actions with me, and we're supposed to be watching like a movie as kids, like we're just around each other as kids. And so he was annoyed with me at the time, and he didn't want it. So then he went and told on me. And from there on, I was labeled as fast when he was the one who brought it to me. You know what I mean? And he wasn't reprimanded or anything. And matter of fact, a lot of things that happened, the boys were never reprimanded. It was always the girls. The girls were always fast. And one of the things is because I think a lot of the women in my family have been molested or raped and stuff like that. Oh, didn't mean to say that. Gotta have a disclaimer. Have been molested and all that, and are APED'd. So I think it's like this backwards thing where that happened to them too, where they were labeled as fast. And so they just carried that, with them. And they seen women in a bad way on you're bringing that to you. You know what I mean? It's so sad because I've noticed that with a lot of victims, like they usually do that to other women, instead of having empathy for other women or other girls and being more um, kind, they're harsher and a little bit more easier on the boys when it comes to anything sexual. Now, other stuff, that's something different. You know what I mean? But sexual, very less hard on the boys and very hard on the girls. And I know it's because girls can get pregnant, but at the same time, who's getting them pregnant? You know what I mean? Like, if there were no boys running around and loose, there would be no girls pregnant. You know? But, and vice versa. Just let that sink in. I had an argument with somebody from the red pill. I just still feel like it is both parties' issue and problem. Promiscuity is like the fault of both parties, because then we have the other factor that girls were at some point being very what do you call that, being, forced to be more pure, whatever, and there were still boys getting people pregnant, and it was usually women who were already deemed as worthless almost, which is really sad, because I was just thinking, I was like, God, if that's your daughter too, why do we all of a sudden deem them as worthless and as just, oh, they're prostitutes, that's it, that's all, when these women have been molested and are EPED'd by promiscuous, can't control themselves men. So it's just the fault of both parties, and it needs to be the responsibility of both parties, because even women that are trying, they could be molested or RAPED'd by a man, and then their mind is all warped and messed up. But they still, do need to confront it and not go into promiscuity still. You know what I mean? Because it's not going to it's not going to help. It's just going to harm whatever happened to them. But, so anyway, so I thought claiming being a Scorpio was the reason why I was that way. But like I said, I was already introduced into sex early, like sex early, very early on. And then from there, probably 7 or 8, I found pornography. And that just, I'm glad I didn't find it at 4 or 5, because I probably would have been trying to do those actions instead. And I wouldn't have held on to my V card till I was like, 19 plus years old in college. Like, I would have lost it early. God really helped me in that accord on not starting to be actually sexually active early. You know what I mean? Like, I had sexual activities going on, but I was not actively having intercourse, So I really resonated with the Scorpio, astrology, because astrology and horoscopes are kind of one and the same. Use astrology for the horoscopes and tarot. They're all kind of in one. That's one thing that Christians are missing and why they think that is harmless. They're all used for divination, So I just started saying, I am this. And it wasn't until more recently that I really started to denounce that I was that. Because the more that you claim to be, you'll notice, like, you might read your horoscope and your chart and you'll be like, this is me. But that, I don't think I'm that, right? And I remember it was saying that I hold grudges, and everybody say you hold grudges. I never really felt like I was really holding grudges and getting bitter until I got older and older. And the more people started to betray me and stuff like that. And I think I was drawing that to me by saying I am that. Like, in this, you probably won't believe me completely, but I really do think it's so funny, because the older I got, I just started saying, I really never resonated fully with being the Scorpio sign or at all until I started getting older. And it's because it's like I was like, I'm going to play a clip too, because I just believe that each individual astrological sign has a spirit attached to it. So when you start saying, I am this, I am this, I am this, and then you start reading your chart, I am this, I am this, I am this, you become that. And at first you don't resonate with it all, but as life goes on, you start resonating with it because you are claiming that. You're resonating with that spirit. You are agreeing with that spirit. I remember I even said that to a lot of my witch friends because I had witch friends or whatever. I don't hang out with them anymore, and they kind of disown me now, which is okay with me. I know they could be saying stuff, I don't know, but I don't have any ill will towards them. I just know that I don't have nothing to relate to them anymore. And I started to feel uncomfortable around them after a while just because I was trying to sever all the stuff I was into because it was making me feel so empty and lost. But so I started to resonate with it more and more as I got older because I was coming to agreement with that astrological sign with those traits. And I'm not going to lie, the lust got heavier and heavier and heavier, but it also came with the fact that I was just not being careful with who I slept with. Like most of the people I want to say I slept with were probably very promiscuous too. And all these souls being attached to you and stuff like that, even if I'm not sleeping around like a lot, it was enough to where I know a lot of souls were being attached to me. Like the person I even lost it to had already slept with 10 plus people. You know what I mean? So, yeah, probably shouldn't have told his business. I'm sorry if you're watching this, but with men, nobody cares how many they sleep with, but still, like, I think it would have gone a lot different if I was with someone who was either a virgin like me or just hadn't slept around already before I, slept with them, and been more careful with who I decided to give that to. But so with astrology, that of course leads to horoscope, right? So you're watching different things on YouTube about that. And then after years of watching that, then you move to your chart. And after years of looking at your chart and not really resonating with it, but I think I resonated with it later on once again because I was coming to agreement with it. But I start watching tarot. And I remember specifically some of the moments where I was watching it, and it was always when like big things with men was happening because I really wanted to know about my love life, and that's one of the most things they talk about. So with tarot, and I'm going to also insert just some points about tarot. I think I do have a video about it, just some things right here. So with tarot, that's where it gets dark. So with tarot, I started to watch it around the time I was deciding to sever from my ex, and it was just resonating with me because it kept talking about a narcissist and everything, and I already had went into this whole thing where I believed he was, a narcissist. And so I was like, oh, this is matching with my life. And I remember watching it and I felt like a spirit, like an evil spirit was around. But I thought it was because of my ex. But now that I started to get learn more recently, 4 years later, I'm like, it wasn't him. It was what I was watching. And it could have been him, but there's something in tarot, the spirit behind it, that spirit that and tarot is specifically used for divination, which it speaks against it in the Bible. I don't care what anybody says, it speaks against divination. And if you look up the definition, it literally says that. I'm just saying. And horoscopes come from tarot. They come from tarot readings. And most people that are doing the horoscopes are witches, just so you know. Or whatever they want to call themselves, they're the definition of what a witch is, So anyway, when I was leaving him, I just felt a darkness. And I stopped watching it after a while. I don't really know why. I never really thought specifically it was bad because I wasn't doing the tarot myself, but I didn't realize that it was still releasing spiritual things into my household, like or into my life, to be able to speak into my life. So then I start watching it for sure again around December of 2021, after I had a situation with a new man that came into my life, and he was acting like he wanted to really get to know me. It only took like 2 weeks for this, and that's one thing. He was being too aggressive at first. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't text back, he would text um like double text, triple text, and I'm like, dang, he kind of anxious. I even said that to him, like, you kind of anxious, ain't you? But yeah, he was texting me back to back. He seemed interested, asked me about my daughter, asked me all these questions, and then we went on a date. We started talking sexually and stuff like that, and text messages was getting racy. Text messages, all the 9 yard. And then we went on a date. It was great. We kissed. We were hugging, touching, groping. Too early for that, by the way. Like, I am a completely different person now. He was asking me, different stuff, and didn't even realize he barely told me about himself. He was telling me about himself, but he wasn't telling me about himself. So, I remember after the date, I felt like it went great. The way he texted me when he got home, because he lived like 30 minutes from me, 30 to 45 minutes from me, it just said attitude. And he was mad because I didn't invite him over my house for our first date, because we were texting sexually. He was upset about that. So I don't know, I'm telling the story, but I guess it relates to it. So anyways, he got home, and I noticed a change in him. I noticed right away, just because I'm very sensitive when people kind of switch up. And now I've learned to, like, not really make it about me. But I was watching something, and it was like somebody said they were dating, but they weren't looking for anything. So I was like, you know what? I did kind of ask him what his intentions were and stuff like that, but he just beat around the bush when I was asking him. And I realized he didn't answer that straight up. And ladies, that's a red flag. If you're confused about the answer, he's not a straight up person. He's trying to, like, not be. He's trying to keep it confused so he gets what he wants at any cost, which is your confusion, and you not really, knowing which way is which. So, anyways, what I was gonna say, yeah. So I was just like, okay, are you serious, or are you just looking for something serious, or what? So I didn't make it about me. I want to know what you're looking for. You know what I mean? Because I know what I'm looking for. I'm not looking to play around or anything. And so he was like, oh, no, nothing serious. And I was like, oh, okay. Why are you asking me about my daughter? Why are you asking, some people are like, oh, I just want to get to know you and have chemistry. And I'm like, but that's playing with somebody's emotions and heart. Like, if you just want to be that way, and that's the thing nowadays, is that you got to be clear. You got to be completely clear before you sleep with anybody, before you start telling them anything, before you open up your heart. Be completely clear about what is this person's intent. You know what I mean? Forget all of that intention on, oh, I'm just going to see how she is and I'll make my decision based on that. Forget that. And also be clear on what you want. If you don't want anything serious, then whatever. But for me, as a woman of God today, anything else is a waste of time. And also, I don't want to connect my body to anybody who does not want forever. Like, period. Who I'm already in it for forever. But anyway, so that caused me to look for answers about my love life in a different way. I started off, because, the person is what you consider under this Pisces zodiac. So I started off by watching, like, binging those. So then after I was binging things about Scorpios and Pisces together, then I went to binging tarot readings about love life. And it was like, oh, he's going to come back and this and that. And then it says there's someone else. And from there, that took me into being obsessed with a friend that I had that ended up basically telling him how I felt about him, and he um, just told me he wanted to be friends, and that was devastating to me because I'm like, okay, everybody just wants to sleep with me. No one's serious. And the one friend I have that I'm connecting with in a non-sexual way, he doesn't even want me. And I'm like, I'm not ugly. Like, like I'm not unattractive. So what is it? You know what I mean? Like, so then it's just your personality. So then I was feeling crappy. So now that made me go to Answers with Tarot, like just binging it. I mean, all summer I binged it, all the way up until fall. So from the beginning of the end of spring to the beginning of spring to the end of fall of last year, all I did was binge Tarot, and it led me to want to smoke heavier because I wanted to be in this dream world. And I don't know what it was, but it made me smoke Mary Jane so heavy. The more I smoked, the more I wanted to binge. The more I binged, the more I wanted to smoke. Like I was just in a depression, a functional depression, a depression. Like I felt so freaking empty. And then I just kept getting major uh uh penis thrown at me, like, oh, I want to just sleep with you. Nothing else for me. They just wanted to sleep with me. And I just felt so useless because I'm not looking for people to sleep with. You know what I mean? Like I wanted something serious. I wanted something more than just that. And honestly, I'm glad I didn't find it then because it wasn't going to be in the way that I needed it. You know what I mean? Like it was just going to still be disastrous because he wasn't going to be a man of God. I mean, I was so, like I said, I was like cold, way worse than lukewarm. Okay. And obviously, because I was watching Tarot. And when I was watching Tarot, I remember some of them used to talk about like Jesus and stuff like that too, which it was really something else. Another thing I noticed is that a lot of the tarot readers had cancer. I'm just gonna leave that there. I mean, maybe it's a connection, maybe not, but something about it, I don't know why it stuck out to me. And I think breast cancer at that. I don't know. It might not be in a connection, but I'm quite spiritual. I don't want to get too spiritual or whatever, but it might be a connection. But anyway, so I was just binging it and feeling emptier and emptier. And then I start running across, because I had already run across these testimonies too, but from New Age to Jesus, and they talked about it, and it started to make me feel eerie about watching tarot. I'm like, I don't really know. Like, for real, like I wasn't really like doing it myself, but I didn't realize how much of it can still attach to you by even watching it on online. You know what I mean? Like I didn't realize, you know what I mean? And what else I was gonna say? Like I just kept getting like offers for sex, nothing more. And it was just like making me feel emptier. And I do got a couple of things here. So tarot was one of the things I had gotten to, and honestly, it's kind of what led me back to God is watching about it. And I'm like, okay, it became an addiction. If you even look at people who just stopped it, like the truth about it, it becomes an addiction. It becomes an addiction to find answers spiritually that some of the stuff was really true though. That's what's creepy and scary, even online. Like some of it be like matching to your life. And then also Reiki, my Reiki experience. A lot of people don't say that this has nothing to do with it, but I'm going to tell you what. When I tell you that I think I experienced something that most people don't experience at Reiki, but it's probably because I had already had an encounter with God since I was 17. So everything that I come into, people can do it for a long time, and some people can excel in it. The enemy, as soon as I touch any of this stuff, the enemy is like, I'm taking you out. I am taking you out. I don't know what it is in me, but maybe it's the God in me. And he's like, something in there, still in there. You know what I mean? Because I could never deny God, even though I didn't realize that I was denying him by my actions. But with my words, I could never speak that he doesn't exist because of an experience I had when I was 17. So, with Reiki, okay, so I got it done by a friend of mine, and she's trans. I don't know if that is anything, but anyway, my friend, she did Reiki on me for my birthday, and I didn't know what it was. Firstly, I did not know what it was. For one, it was an hour, and it went by like it was 10 minutes. So I was in a trance. Secondly, I just, when she was up here, I just felt a white light, not felt, seen a white light enter all the way in. I seen it. I seen it come in me. And from then I started to feel creeped out, like things were like following me, or spiritual things were following me. And at this time I'm smoking too. So I'm like, oh, I'm just high. You know what I mean? And one day on Halloween of 2020, I seen a hooded person next to my friend who's a witch's like apartment outside. And I thought it was just a person, but it disappeared. Right. So that happened. The next day or the next day after that, my friend said they seen the person or the thing, entity, enter into their house, and she told them that they have to leave. And of course they do. She's a witch, so she did all the rest of that. And she said it went away, but still I was like, how am I seeing these things? I kept feeling spirits everywhere. And I had a guy that I was talking to at the time pray for me. And I watched the white light leave. And I was just like, I don't know what that is, but Reiki, I'm not doing that anymore. I didn't even know like that it was something as spiritual as it is. And Reiki, like looking at the words, is also a spiritual practice from another religion and another culture. You know what I mean? Like it's another spiritual practice. And I heard that may be the Kundalini spirit. I'm not too sure, but I know that's one of them from yoga. I didn't really do yoga like that, so I'm not going to speak on that too much, but I know a lot of people are doing yoga, and that is another spiritual practice. Look it up. It's to ascend to your higher self. You know what I mean? And the deeper you go into yoga, if you actually study it, you'll get the more spiritual implications with it. And it's attached to like I think it's, is it, I don't know if it's Muslim or what it is. No, I don't know, but it's attached to another spirituality. It's attached to another religion, and it's attached to other gods. And people just think it's stretching, but it's another thing that was taken from another culture by Americans for some type of practice on what it's not really for. It's specifically for those religions to connect to their gods. So that's one of the things. And so with that being said, that's kind of like my testimony with the New Age. And more recently, when I denounce a lot of stuff, it's been kind of hard. I'm going to get deliverance here soon, next Tuesday, because I still feel like there are things that were attached to me, as well as me like smoking with people who are witches. Sorry, y'all. Like, y'all watch this and just feeling. You know what I mean? I ignored a lot of them, but they're doing spells in their apartment. There's no way. There's nothing that could have attached to me. You know what I mean? Like, and the thing is, I known them since before they were even witches. You know what I mean? And I know all of them didn't believe in God, but I never judged people for that. And, we all go through stuff where sometimes we question God's existence or question who he is. And so I never judged anybody for that. But I will tell you that light and dark cannot exist in one. It even says in the Bible, you can't serve two gods. You either hate one, despise one, you know what I mean, and love the other. And I started to love those things, and I really was despising, God and the God of the Israelites. I was despising him, the God of the universe, because I was practicing these other things, and the other things wanted to take me out. You know what I mean? Wanted me to become a shell of myself. And I really was fighting for my life, like, because there was a point where I did not even feel like I had any purpose anymore on this earth, and I just felt like I was gonna die, because I'm like, why am I still alive and other people are dying? Like, if there's no purpose for me, why? And those practices were making me feel that way. Like, and I could tell you now, a lot of people that are doing those practices, they have heavy depression on them. Like, if you're one of them, be honest with yourself. You're depressed. You don't see the purpose of life. The only thing you see the purpose of life for is what you're doing those practices for. And that's just definitely to get money. But once you got it, what is the purpose of your life then? What are you going to do with that money? Probably nothing to help out the rest of the world, just for yourself. And you're going to be depressed because life ain't just about for you. It's not just about you. It's just not. I'm sorry if I'm the first one that told you this. Life ain't just about you and for you. We are put on this earth to praise God. That's why no matter what you do, you'll always some way, somehow find yourself in spirituality. And if you don't, you're probably going to be heavily depressed and empty and feel empty. I don't know that many atheists that don't feel empty and have horrible struggles. And they're going to say, oh, Christians too. Yeah, of course. Because there is lukewarm Christians. I'm just saying. And sometimes we're trying to get closer to God in the way that we think it is when he already told us how to get there. And sometimes we don't even want to listen to his instructions. We still want to do what we do. So that's why we're struggling. But that's pretty much all I have to say about, new practices and spirituality. We're doing it for a reason, and we know we're missing something. But these practices, they're not going to lead you closer to God. They're going to lead you closer to some false gods. And you're going to feel emptier and emptier and emptier. And you're going to need to try to find, like, different ways to get closer to something. And it leads you to get further away from God, further away from peace, further away from praising him. But yeah, that's all. So thank you guys for listening, and like, share, subscribe.